Welcome back to the Standing Stone podcast. As of right now, that's the best name we've got, but hopefully by the end of this conversation, you'll be able to provide some possible alternatives. But I am so excited to have you, Sandy, on the podcast, and I appreciate you joining us today.
Well, I'm excited to talk with you, Lo.
You know, and at this stage, everyone's kind of like, where's this going to head? Like, what are we doing? Not many of us have much experience when it comes to video media, and especially in an interview form. But I know my excitement comes because of the unique history that we have. You have been my regional director for, gosh, as long as we've had a Southern regional director, and you and your husband jumped into that. And this is a chance for us to expand into the whole country and for our fellow shepherds to get to know you as not only a shepherd yourself, but also as a key leader in this organization. So I'm going to run you through some questions, and hopefully you'll feel comfortable and at ease to share. But I've always appreciated the back and forth that we've had, and this is just going to be super fun for me.
Yep. It's always fun to talk to you, Lo.
Well, I appreciate that. Now, as you could tell in my intro, I don't know how long it's been since you guys have rolled. I don't know how long it's been since you've entered into the role of regional director. So if you would, share with me a little bit about your journey within Standing Stone. How long have you been a shepherd, and when did your role extend into regional director, if you know?
Okay, so we came to Standing Stone in 2019, and October 2019 is when we said yes, October 1st, and began the support raising journey and had some support coaching going on. And then good old 2020 happened.
Right.
Yeah, so we're support raising while people can't see each other and touch each other and talk to
Wow.
each other. So that was a challenge, but the Lord used it. Then, dude, I can't tell you exactly when, but very early on, we started leading a cohorts. So when the started, we were cohort leading. And then we became, I think at the time it was called a regional director, but it's now really what we would call an area leader. The names kind of changed. So we were an area leader in the southeast kind of Tennessee area. And then we moved over to be an area leader in the Texas area. And then we became regional directors. It was April, maybe 2 years, for however long we've had this regional structure. When we went from 2 regions to 3, that's
right.
when we became the regional directors. So it's either 2 years this April or 3 years. I think it
I
was
think it's
2
probably
years.
3
3.
because the
Yeah.
years have been clicking off so
Yeah.
fast.
Yeah, probably so. So anyway, that's been our journey. And so we've moved around a lot, but yeah, love being in this position. So we're getting to still maintain with some of the same people we started with as well in the Southern region. Yeah. So yeah.
It's so funny because during that COVID year, you had to raise support while everyone was social distancing,
Yeah.
which raising support is hard enough. And we didn't even have any training back then. That was
No.
before we had any formal training.
Right. We came to one of the what is it, the grandfather in training that you did. I think maybe the first one you did in
You were
Tennessee.
early because I invited all the existing area leaders to kind of be our guinea pigs. And
Yeah.
apparently it did all right.
Yeah, yeah, it was great. So it was great to get that training, and it was like another shot in the arm to keep going and raise the support more. So, yeah.
Well, and another fun fact as you're talking, the cohorts were really birthed out of COVID
Yeah.
because we were all meeting and there was a handful of us that at that time there was no leadership structure outside of we had Ken Eichler and then we had John Duvall and then we had nothing else as far as a leadership structure. And so there was a handful of us that were like, man, we need to be around each other. And we knew that the isolation would be a killer. And so there was 7 or 8 of us that started meeting. And as a result of that, we're like, everyone has to be in a cohort. And Sean Dean was really instrumental
Yeah.
in making those happen. And I believe Sean was the Eastern director that you would have
Yeah.
been an area leader under. And so
Yeah.
all of that just started cascading out of
Mm.
the COVID years and out of the benefit of us having those shepherd relationships internally.
Mhm.
But man, it's so hard to keep track of how things evolve at this stage in the game. So
Yeah. 'Cause it was growing.
If you could, for those who don't know, because we just added a fourth region, what are the states that are included in your region? Just so if you could paint a picture for the folks that are listening, where are the shepherds that you are entrusted to care for?
Okay, pause. I knew I should have known you were gonna ask me that. For some reason, panic strikes me when people ask me that. So hold up just one second. Let me make sure I say that right. I don't know why, but I guess because it's changed and, when we made the new region and I just can't get it straight in my mind. So let me just pull up my little trusty
Yeah, and
map.
I have a cheat sheet, but it's not yet complete.
No, I got it. Yeah, I got it because it's easier now, but it used to be so many and now it's fewer.
Yeah, it's that little wrinkle at Louisiana that I think trips me up sometimes.
Yeah, but Louisiana is not with us, it's with Stephen. So, okay. So just jump back in? Okay. Yeah, so the southern region has shrunk, and we're thankful for that because the organization, went through a lot of pain and deliberation. How do we divide the country in a better way so certain areas are not overwhelmed and have so many shepherds in them? So now the southern region is Arkansas, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, North and South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida. So
Wow.
that's all the South. And then we have the Southwest that was added just, I guess, officially February. That new region was
Yeah.
added. Yeah.
Well, that's a big hub considering it hosts Middle Tennessee, which is unofficially the eastern, centric city. But that is awesome that you guys are able to let me do that. Well, that's great that we were able to shrink that area so you could focus because that is a lot of shepherds, especially in that corridor of Nashville and Florida is growing quite a bit. And I'm glad that would be able. I'm glad for you guys to be able to focus more on a smaller grouping of states because we are growing, and that is going to be a great privilege, but also a challenge to make sure that everyone's cared for well.
Yeah, we were super excited this year to divide the southern region into 4 areas, which is making the areas smaller, giving the
Yeah,
area leader more time to have intentionality with the shepherds, and it just builds better community, and it doesn't feel overwhelming to
for
care for
sure.
just your area. So, we're super stoked about that in the southern region.
Now that covers the role as the regional directors. I'm curious because you're a shepherd at heart.
Yeah.
And all of us jumped into this organization because we wanted to care for ministry leaders and guide them into healthy ministry. What is it about your shepherding role of people outside of the organization? What do you love about that role?
Oh my goodness. I could go on and on and on here, but I guess the dearest thing to my heart is shepherding these pastors' wives. Dave was in full-time associate pastor, church planter for like 26, 28 years, somewhere in there. I always wanted that older pastor's wife, that more seasoned pastor's wife to invest in me. I mean, I practically begged at one of the churches he was on staff for, but people just, I mean, I couldn't find it. I would go to conferences and listen to speakers. I would read all the good books, but hey, that's not a flesh and blood person. And oh my goodness, I would have loved to have had a flesh and blood person. So it is my joy to be there for these ministry wives. And I care for women in ministry as well. But as far as my background, and of course, I guess now I'm a woman in ministry because I'm a Standing Stone Shepherd. So I'm in both roles, right? But it is just so good to be there for them. And yeah, I love it so much.
Well, you said your background because one of the things that as the director of shepherd training, I'm looking at when people inquire because not everyone's qualified to be
Yeah.
a shepherd within Standing Stone. I'm really looking at their experience, like what has built an empathy factor that they'll be able to relate to people because of their current situations. But then also there's an element of like gifting. There's an
Yeah.
element of just God-given ability to kind of cut through and minister to people in a very powerful and meaningful way. I'm curious, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit because, sometimes it's hard to self-promote. What do you feel like is your spiritual gifting or your ministry superpower when it comes to shepherding? What are you uniquely great at that you've noticed?
Yeah, I would think just being able to empathize with people where they are and without casting judgment, and just being able to say, "You're not weird. This is not that you're not weird." And of course,
Right.
you're feeling overwhelmed with that, and just to be there with them in it and normalize, you know, the feelings, the struggles, that
Yeah.
they have.
I've had a chance to work through some tough situations and even draw some advice directly and indirectly from you guys. And one of the things that when I moved to the South, I had to get used to was the what I call the bless their heart syndrome. Oh, bless their heart, like this almost I don't want to say patronizing, sympathetic, like oh, kind of I
Mm,
feel sad for them. But in our role, that's a really hard balance to hear the things that we hear and to not dismiss them as being unimportant, but at the same time be genuine. And I have
mhm,
always appreciated that about you. You've always had the ability to be genuine in that empathy and not have that like overly emphatic head tilt of like, oh, bless your heart. Like I never experienced it in California, but I certainly see it. And to your credit, I think that is a great balance to be able to be empathetic and hold that space in a way that the person feels at the very least noticed. And I appreciate that skill set that you have.
Thank you, Lo. Thank you.
You bet. Now, invariably, when we jump into some of those situations, some of them are a little messier, a little more challenging.
Yeah.
Maybe they're more intense over a short period of time, or they're just harder over a long period of time. I'm curious if you have a challenging shepherding situation that you wouldn't mind sharing with us so we can kind of learn about how you approached it.
Wow. I know sometimes I feel like 90% of ours are challenging, and it seems like we end up working a lot of times with husband and wife. And maybe Dave will start with the husband, and I'll start with the wife, and the wife will be saying, "Our real struggle is this," which is quite opposite from what the husband is saying. Our real struggle is this. And then, we get them to the place, "Hey, how about all four of us meet together?" And then we get some real stuff going on. But first, we're establishing that right to listen and hear and build that trust. And then we can move into the deeper things. So we've dealt with
Are
some.
you saying, I'm going to interrupt. Did you say these are situations where you're building trust one on one with each of them. And because we have a strict confidentiality, that you aren't free to speak about what you're hearing each other's sessions. So in that situation, you ask them to kind of bring like a summit of the minds.
Yeah, and now sometimes what we'll do, like if Dave's talking with the man, I'm talking with the woman, sometimes what we'll do is it'll get to a point and I'll say, "Hey, would it be okay with you if I shared this with Dave as he's talking
Right.
to your husband?" And he'll do the same. And so we won't do that unless we have their permission. And so if we have permission, sometimes we'll do some cross sharing to kind of figure out what's going on. But I would say almost always, eventually, we end up all four coming together because a lot of times they're just not hearing each other. And so, yeah. So, to answer the question about one of the hard ones was a couple. They both have been on church staff. Okay. They went through a serious marriage problem, were separated for a while. He got off church staff. Then they got back together. They were both on part time on the church staff, a different church staff now, again, both part time, but they wanted him to move into a full time position. And she was scared to death because of what had transpired in their family and marriage before. So it has, and we still walk with this couple, but it has been a long journey of rebuilding trust, setting up healthy boundaries in ministry, not assuming the worst. So it's been a
Yeah.
deal, but we're very thankful because of how they're thriving right now.
Good.
And so it's been good, but it's not been easy. So
Well, it's what a great reminder of, I think that in seasons of calm, there's not a married couple out there that wouldn't agree that sometimes we see a situation through a different vantage point and a different lens. But when you can't connect and hear the other person's perspective, what a great value it is for a Dave and Sandy to show up and say, "Hey, can we kind of decode what we're hearing for a second and
yeah.
maybe give you some additional food for thought?" And that trust is so key to bring them together. Uh, and it really, I think if I'm hearing you right, it really expedited their ability to understand where the other person's coming from and
For sure.
possibly get some traction in the right direction.
And courage, just having that brother or sister alongside you builds courage. Like, I can say these hard things with you there. And the strange thing is, this wasn't even in person. This was all Zoom. Now, we have been with them in person, but most of our stuff has been through, Zoom. But just having that other person in the meeting, you're
Mhm.
like, okay, I can say this and Sandy's got my back, and things aren't going to go crazy. And so, yeah.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, they just need to know that we're here for them.
Yeah.
We're not looking to point fault
Yeah.
and figure out whose issue this really is. It's more of a, hey, you guys, if you can reestablish a sense of safety with one another. And I love what you said. Don't assume the worst,
Yeah.
because there's so many things that we do. I do premarital um, coaching for a lot of the couples that I marry outside of my Standing Stone role. And one of the things that I tell them, I'm like, all the years of doing weddings, all the years of doing premarital, with the exception of one couple, which is a story for another day, no one have I ever sat down with, wakes up in the morning and goes, "What can I disrespect and make my spouse mad today?"
Sure. Sure.
But it happens over and over and over and over again. It happens over and over again out of our humanness, not
Mhm.
out of malice. And
Yeah.
for people to realize, like, we're not doing this on purpose, but you're going to butt heads.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's great.
When
Well,
you
with your,
produce
go ahead.
sorry. I didn't
I
mean
gotta
to
itch my
interrupt.
nose.
Go
I
ahead.
gotta itch my nose. Okay. And well, with your tenure within Standing Stone, by my math, we're talking about a seventh year. Is this your
Mhm.
seventh year within Standing Stone? Okay. So over that time, how has being part of this organization blessed your family?
I tried it. So, as being a regional director, part of what we do is the third interview. And sometimes we back up and do the second interview with new standing subscribers coming in. And of course, because you're kind of our boss in that. Yeah, I try to convey when I'm talking to these people coming onto Standing Stone, I try to convey the quality of community. The quality of community in Standing Stone is unlike anything else that we've been a part of. Yeah, it brings tears to my eyes just thinking about the quality of community you get as Dave, my dear husband of almost 37 years, yeah, almost 37 years this month. But yeah, as he has said before, yeah, that when you get this many people together, that their heart is to care and shepherd others. What you get when you come together and pray and worship and hang out and do stupid stuff together and whatever, the community is just over the top. We have an over the top community.
Well, and I know how I've created that community, and I'm gonna put words in both of our mouths. Those in-person gatherings of
My
Standing
word.
Stone are critical.
Yeah.
And not critical because of what you're gonna learn or the skills that you're gonna develop, but to make the organization smaller
Yeah.
and to find your people within Standing Stone, the in-persons are priceless.
Yeah, I think about we were talking about the early days. Remember that Zoom national gathering we had, and they sent everybody a box of theater candy, and we sat there and ate our candy and broke off in little Zoom groups. Well, that was the best we could do during those COVID-ish times, and it was fun to see the little faces. It doesn't compare to when we all get together, or even when like our leadership team has gotten together and done fun things. I mean, it's next level. I mean,
Well, and here's something wild for you to wrap your mind around because when I hear it, I'm like, really? Is that true? For a lot of our shepherds in the last, we'll just call it 24 months, we've trained something like 150 shepherds, which is bonkers.
crazy.
For a lot of them, the only people they've met face to face in Standing Stone are the people that they trained with.
Yeah, yeah,
So you're talking about oftentimes 15 to 20 amazing people, but think about what the national gathering is going to be. So I'm talking to all of you out there right now. The national gathering, you're definitely probably going to watch this before the national gathering, which is in September. You're going to have a majority of our shepherds that are going to be there, and you're going to have access and a lot of time to connect with people that you've never known before, but you might as well because they lived a similar story as you.
Yeah,
Their ministry journey has similar highs and lows, similar challenges, similar betrayals, similar impossibilities, and they made it through and they made it to Standing Stone. And you might have some best friends that you meet at conference that you would never otherwise have a chance to rub shoulders with.
for sure, for sure. I think about, all the old hymns about when we all get to heaven and all that. It's a little taste to me
Yeah,
of, when you gather all of these people from all over the country that are doing what you do, that love
that's
people
right.
the way you do. It's just, yeah, it's next level. It
I put
just
them the
is,
life breathers, right? So many years in ministry, we by default had to be around a lot of sheep that were hard to be around.
for sure.
Right, took a lot what we call EGRs, extra grace requireds, where
Yeah,
they just, 20% of the church congregation takes up 80% of your time type of folks.
yeah.
And this is not those are not present here at Standing Stone
No,
because
they're
we
not.
have a lot of life breathers. That doesn't mean you're gonna be like best friends sending Christmas cards to everyone, but
Yeah,
you're gonna find some people that have a whole lot of head nods when you're sharing stories because
for sure,
they can relate, which is
for
awesome.
sure. Yeah,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
been a great blessing for me as well, that community side of Standing Stone. I'm curious, we're talking a lot about shepherds that are coming in, they're just kinda starting. If you could go back, if Sandy in 2026 could go back and talk to Sandy from 2019, what advice would you give yourself that you know now?
One would be, and I'm not just saying this because this is your jam, but one would be that not to be afraid of support raising. Dave and I could tell you story after story after story of God's faithfulness and goodness as far as providing this support, but even more than that, the way people felt loved and cared for through us reaching out to the support on the racing journey. We were not prepared. And we do a lot of care for our support team. We do a lot of, funny you should say, premarital for kids of our support team people. And just when you were talking about the not extra grace required people, to me, it felt like as we were going through the support raising journey, going back to these old churches where Dave was on staff, it was almost like the most encouraging people at those churches you got to reach out to, and they were all of a sudden back in your life.
That's right.
It's so hard to, if you've been on staff at several churches, it's hard to leave those people and move on to the new church and invest in those people. And what about these people over here that you loved for all these years or whatever? But you can't divide yourself up that much, right? So it's like you get to corral all these people from your life together in your support team. And yeah, it's just been super cool. And also not to worry about where the people that I would shepherd would come from because I remember Ken Eichler telling me, Sandy, trust me, they will
Mhm.
come and they will come so much to you will say, I can't take any more. And I'm like, really? Yeah. Yes, really. So
Yeah, it's not overnight, but it's like, the seed planting analogy really applies
yeah,
because you're out there talking to people and you're raising support and you're raising awareness and you're making your story known and the next thing you know, you don't realize like all of those seeds hit soil and some of them a month later, 6 months
yeah,
later, a year later, like, "Hey, are you still doing that?" I had a pastor reach out to me 2 months ago, and I've been in Tennessee for 8 years, and he was a pastor I cared for in California. He texted me, "Are you still my shepherd?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I am, buddy. What's going on?" And he's got a whole 'nother thing that is coming up. And so you just never know where that cultivating of story and availability is going to germinate and then sprout. And yeah, I'm not surprised that you have limited bandwidth because the need is so great out there.
yeah, it really is. It really is.
One of the other things that comes to mind is, when you start talking about reconnecting with people from earlier stages of ministry and really hand selecting and going back and saying, who do I miss doing life with? I think it's always good for us to never underestimate how a season of doing life with somebody is unforgettable in their minds. And when we do reconnect, we're in a lot of ways just sharing with them like the love and care that we experience together is something I get to go and extend that love and care to ministry leaders who we have unique shared stories with. And it's very easy for those people from our past to be like, oh my gosh, yeah, that was a huge season in our life that you guys walked with us. We would love to send you out and to walk with others as well. And so, just as encouragement, if you're in a support raising season, give them a chance. Give
Yeah.
people a chance to understand what you're doing and give them a chance to say yes to being part of your partner team. Not everyone's going to say yes,
Mm-mm.
but there's going to be a percentage of the people that you give an opportunity that will join you, and you'll be forever grateful that you made that step.
For sure. And God will shock you in the people that say yes that you would have never thought would say yes,
Right.
and of money that they'll commit to. It's just, you can't figure it out. So, as we were told, don't try to play Holy Spirit. Just let it happen. So,
That's great. Well, I do want you to play Name This Podcast. So you've experienced the podcast now, and I'm very curious if you have any names that come to mind as possible taglines for this internal Standing Stone resource.
it's funny. You had asked me to be thinking about that, and I kept thinking of all these names that other people already have, right? I would think about something, I was like, oh no, that's already somebody else's podcast or whatever. But the one thing I thought about, two things, I guess, was shepherd to shepherd, corral talk. Is that too dorky? Along the way, I knew of another thing that was named that, but I still think
Along the way,
along the way, or maybe even the journey. I know that's also another podcast name, but something, because it is such a journey with shepherds. As you said, some people we care for a short amount of time, and then that's it. Some people we're still talking to people we started talking to in 2019. Not very often, but they know we're here, like you said. So yeah, it's definitely a journey, and this shepherding journey. So yeah.
I love it. Well, I'm going to put those three into the mix. What we're going to do
Okay.
is we're probably going to gather the top 10 and send it out and let people kind of vote on them. And we'll hear from the people on this one.
All right.
But those are viable. I'm gonna say
Okay.
we're gonna have three potential options there, and I so appreciate you spending the time with me today and going a little deeper into your role within Standing Stone. And I definitely look forward to seeing you and Dave again in person, hopefully before the national conference. But if we gotta wait till September, we will patiently wait till September. Thanks again for joining us, Sandy. I appreciate you.
Oh, thanks, Lo. It's going to be great. And if I don't see you before, I'll see you in September.
Outstanding. Thank you so much.
Okay.
And stay. Okay.